Okay? More money! Need more! See? Bro! He did the Zelensky tagline. Yo! Is it him, bro?
2 months, why not?
Need more money! That's him. I swear to God, that's him, bro. That's him. Is it him, bro? This shit. Here's the Fed chair.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Our economy is strong overall and has made significant progress toward our goals over the past 2 years. The labor market has cooled from its formerly overheated state. Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to an estimated 2.2% as of August. We're committed to maintaining our economy's strength by supporting maximum employment and returning inflation to our 2% goal. Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to reduce the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by a half percentage point. This decision reflects our growing confidence that...
Really quickly, just on the Fed cutting, it's a very Wall Street Journal-y question, but the Fed cut the interest rate today by a half a percentage point, going to alleviate inflation for a lot of people, and so if you have any reaction to that, we'd love it.
Well, look, my reaction is...
So they're like, yeah, we want the Fed to cut the interest rates. The Fed cuts the interest rates. Boo! Now we don't want it.
My reaction is a half a point is nothing compared to what American families have been dealing with for the last 3 years. The question is...
Really?
Iran or Biden or busters? Iranian hackers sent stolen Trump campaign information to the Biden campaign. I'm deeply frustrated that the Brandon camp didn't use the stolen, hacked information. I think that's because historically rate cuts have led to a recession. Yeah, dude, those people are definitely making that calculation. Also, a rate cut of 0.5% is nothing. So which one is it? Are they mad that the rate cuts are not large enough? Or are they mad that like they perceive a recession to happen? It just spells what it will look like for the future.
With an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, strength in the labor market can be maintained in a context of moderate growth and inflation moving sustainably down to 2%. We also decided to continue to reduce our securities holdings. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments.
Terry, we now know that the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates by half of a percentage point, a 50 basis point rate cut. That is bigger than it had been originally expected. On the bigger side of things, when you think about this move from the Fed, this is an historic move, the first rate cut in 4 years from the Federal Reserve. And now it is sending a very clear signal that it is taking this fight seriously, that it wants to preserve the jobs market. In its statement, it makes that clear that it is making a half-point rate cut to try to preserve the jobs market with inflation now closer to its target. So again, Terry, a lot of division going into this. The Fed went bigger. It went with that half-point rate cut.
Right. Got it. Thank you, Elizabeth. They went bigger, Alexis. And so first, why? Why do they go bigger, and what's it going to mean?
There were two camps of thought here. I mean, they got a lot of criticism, Terry, a few years ago when they started raising interest rates. Many thought they were too late to react to what was happening during the pandemic, and that's why inflation really got away from them when we saw inflation hit a 40-year high. So there were some who said, look, you need this aggressive half-point cut now to help out the job market, which has been slowing down, and to prevent the economy from maybe moving in the opposite direction, slowing down so much that we would possibly tip into a recession maybe later next year. Others are saying a half point is that it could actually, believe it or not, fan inflation again because it might be a stimulant for the economy. There are some who thought a quarter-point cut was the way to go. If you look at the number here on the screen, a live number of the Dow Jones Industrial Average rallying now more than 260 points. Clearly, Wall Street believes that the Fed did the right thing and that it was time for this half-point aggressive interest rate cut.
All right. So, Elizabeth, this is Wall Street likes it. We were just looking at the stock market going up. What does it mean for consumers, though?
You know, what this means, Terry, is that we are clearly on this trajectory. The Fed is very seriously now embarking on this path of lower interest rates. I do want to point something out to you, Terry, from the statement from the Federal Reserve, which was just released, that there was one governor of the Fed that dissented. What that means is they didn't agree with this decision. They said instead they would have preferred that smaller rate cut, but otherwise all of the members of the Federal Reserve did vote in favor of this. And what that shows, there was a pretty big consensus around a half-point cut. And that shows that the Federal Reserve, as it kind of met over the last 2 days, as it looked at the economy, looked at the data that it has right now, it decided that this was the move that will ultimately result in what it wants to do, which is preserving that jobs market, like Alexis was talking about, and also continuing to keep inflation in check. So right now, what that means, you asked what it means for consumers. We will expect to see rates lower. When you think about mortgage rates, we've already seen them trending down. Those should continue to go lower in the months ahead. Credit card rates generally start to go lower, auto loan rates, impacts on businesses, too, who are taking out loans. And that's where you'll start to see this trickle throughout the American economy, Terry.
Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Doubtful. I mean, we'll see. What are you talking about, dude? We'll see. I mean, they've interest rates have been going down beyond this, but I don't think that it'll ever get back to a point that ever get back to a point where it was. I locked in my rate at 2020 at 3.7. I don't see it hitting that anymore. Yeah. I mean, I don't even think it'll go down there. I feel like the same principle stands for inflation everywhere else, which is that when people get comfortable at a certain at a certain interest rate, as in people still go out and refinance. I don't think that banks will go along with it, but who knows? Boeing is putting tens of thousands of employees on furlough. I know, we're going to talk about Boeing. Did you see this crazy inflation TikTok?
I just looked through my Walmart history and I found this Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries. 45 items cost $126. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is...
I've been telling people, do not believe the government when they say inflation's only 8 or 10%. Food's gone up double, triple. That's over 100%. Whoever's doing the inflation numbers, liars.
What do you mean? It's not just groceries, man. What the f are you talking about? There's also a ton of junk fees that a lot of online delivery services have added over the course of the past couple of years. One thing I will tell you, for example, if you ever order Uber Eats, okay, and you happen to actually go to the restaurant that you normally order Uber Eats from, look at the prices inside the restaurant versus look at the prices for the same items on Uber Eats. The prices on Uber Eats are much higher. If you go to the restaurant directly, it's cheaper. I'm talking about the same exact thing. This is before the delivery fees. This is before all the other additional fees tacked onto it. A lot of people don't even know that. And the same goes for Amazon as well. Bro, Uber Eats is a luxury. Ain't no everyday man using that. The example that we're looking at is literally Amazon delivery, dog. What the are you talking about? That's the reason why I'm using the Uber Eats example. Even if you pick up through Uber Eats, it's still more expensive. Yes, they do. Or it was Walmart, sorry, not Amazon. But still, that's online delivery, online grocery delivery. So there's probably a bunch of additional junk fees associated with that purchase now, beyond the fact that Amazon has also tacked up the prices. Labor economist, she's chill on today's rate cuts.
Points. What does this mean? Is it good? Here's my quick reaction. I'm still a little gussied up from being on TV where I was talking about exactly this, so I hope you appreciate the extra effort. But basically, the Fed started raising interest rates in March of 2022 to battle inflation. They raised rates 11 times since then, but for about a year and a half now, they've been held at around 5%. And the question was, when is the Fed going to cut? Well, they were waiting for prices to fall sufficiently to feel that the threat of inflation had been contained. Now,
if only there was another deflationary mechanism, beyond monetary policy. I can't really think of any alternatives. Can you guys? Is there anything else other than monetary policy to engage in any sort of like deflationary mechanism. Oh, that's right. It's called fiscal policy. That's the other side of this process that is oftentimes forgotten. Well, fiscal policy requires legislative action. And obviously, when the legislative branch of the government is completely gutted and obstructionist policies, obstructionist principles from one party or the other, especially when it comes to deflationary mechanisms, which would probably increase taxes, for example, or even like any kind of anti-capitalist measures in terms of this could be, I guess, the federal agencies engaging in antitrust initiatives. It could mean tax, like I said, it could mean increasing taxes. It can even mean something like instituting price controls, you know, all that sort of stuff. When neither party has the appetite to push for these kinds of bold, radical ideas, and neither party actually ever gets punished for being obstructionist, and by neither party I mean the Republicans don't ever get punished for being obstructionist, obviously there's no alternative. The only thing you have in your hands, the only thing that remains, is monetary policy, because it's not controlled technically by anything but, I guess, market pressure, market movements. There's no direct government intervention there. So that's the only tool that the American government has to deal with such a thing, to deal with inflation. I mean, if it were left up to Trump, he would also take over that part as well.
Now that prices are at 2.5%, as we found out last month, it feels like we reached that milestone. But in the meantime, the labor market has been showing more and more signs of distress. The unemployment rate has been rising for about a year, and ever since the Fed started raising interest rates way back in March of 22, hiring has fallen. And pretty much every month since then, the number of people...
Fiscal policies sound a bit neoliberal. What? No, it's just what are you talking about? That's just simply the term for it. Fiscal policies are policies that the government has at its disposal to engage in inflationary or deflationary mechanisms, and it's a broad range of things that the legislative body could do or the federal regulatory agencies could do, whereas monetary policy is in the hands of the Fed. That's it. It's a generic term. It's not like neoliberal.
Hired into a new job, and the rate of hiring in our economy has been falling, getting to dangerously low levels that would indicate recession. Of course, the only reason why we're not in a recession is because layoffs have not ticked up at all, meaning that most employers are holding on to the employees they have, but they're not quickly expanding their payrolls. It's a really tenuous time for the labor market. The question for today was, how much are they going to cut rates by? If it was 50 points versus 25 points, really signals how committed the Fed is to the labor market. 50 points is what I thought the data suggested, and what I had just said on TV, that if you look at hiring, if you look at the number of jobs added, if you looked at the change in the unemployment rate, the Fed has little room for maneuvering here. They have to cut by 50 just to make sure that they telegraph to everyone that the labor market matters and that what workers are going through matters. Employers have made it through this fight against inflation without cutting jobs, but we don't know how much longer they're going to wait to do that. So this was a good signal. A lot of people thought maybe they would go for 25 instead. The reason for that, though, was not so much about data as it was narrative. If they go by 50, does it look like they're helping Kamala? If they go by 50, does it look like they're actually panicking? If they go by 50, is that just because what the market wants? The data indicated they should cut by 50. The narrative indicated that they might cut by 25, but they went with 50. I'm really happy they did. It's going to show kind of an immediate effect in interest rates. The stock market's probably going to go up by a lot to the extent that that matters to you. But it's a really good signal to send to employers that borrowing is about to become cheaper. And hopefully they're going to respond by expanding their payrolls, because that is what the labor market needs right now.
But I thought they were hiring a lot. I just don't understand it. Not these last round of jobs numbers, which caused the Fed to respond in the way that they did. But for the past couple of years, we've been hearing that like hiring is back on the menu. There's so many readily available jobs out there. The situation in the job market is so dire that it led to like people considering a new term, I guess, or maybe it was an old term, it's new to me, ghost jobs. The notion that like a company wants to make it seem like they're hiring as though they're expanding, but they're not actually hiring. I work in finance, not even close. I literally have you playing in the background. I'm applying for a second job while being a full-time student. Low-paying jobs are open. Mid to high-paying jobs aren't. Anyway, that's what's been happening to me since I got laid off last January. At least 35% of HR professionals have admitted to posting ghost jobs according to surveys. What? I don't know what that is. So show me the data. I would like to look into that. I think a lot of this stuff is just fake in general because of the financialized aspect of our entire economy. It's more so just about like confidence in a stock, and the way that most corporations move is not about like widgets in a widget factory and who gets to produce those widgets any longer. This is your output, this is your revenue, and this is the operational cost. It's not like that. It's more so just confidence. People will yell at me and say I'm wrong for this and say classic socialist doesn't know enough about the economy. And I agree. Certainly not my strong suit. But when I look at this stuff, I personally see, what is this? Thanks for skipping my message. You know, it's really going to suck if the people who love their comfy life are going to have to go back to backbreaking work. Did you hear the booed when he said the Fed cut interest rates? I didn't skip your message. I watched the video. Looking for work is a struggle, and headhunters are making it even harder. More than 8 in 10 recruiters say they post ghost jobs. Jesus Christ. But hey, if the company has job openings, that kind of cuts away at the layoff. That cuts away at the layoffs and the impact that the layoffs might have. It just simply looks like they're restructuring, you know? It just simply looks like they are restructuring. So it's not as bad as like the company's actually doing horribly. So it's probably a way to withstand additional market scrutiny. And no, they fire the high salaried employees and hire at lower salaries. They don't even do that. With the way technological improvements work, and especially with like additional pressure attached to your loss of job in the United States of America, which implies that you'll lose in many instances your visa status if you're if you're a visa employee, or your health care, or you know, paying off your debts that you have incurred in an effort to become a more productive member of the labor force for a crumb of potential upward social mobility. The real fear, due to having no safety nets that will catch you if you fall, Americans can be forced to work two people's jobs. You can be as productive as two employees would be. This allows companies to engage in layoffs. There's also offshoring. There's also AI. You're wrong. Tech companies are doing that, including the one I work for. Yeah. Most companies will do this. At my current job, they did layoffs and basically laid a bunch of people off, opened a bunch of job postings that they obviously have no interest in filling. It's been months, and they're just ramping up the burden on individuals. Yeah. Corporations will do this. It's called eliminating redundancies in corporate speak. But the elimination of redundancies do not always reflect positively in your stock prices. Usually does, though. But in an effort to offset any kind of like negative consequences that you might incur on your stock prices, then you make it seem like you're expanding. This is at the heart of many of the this is one of the problems that many labor unions engage with. Specifically, one example I'll use is nursing unions. Nurses unions oftentimes will either go on strike due to the fact that both in the UK and also in the United States of America, nursing unions regularly go and demonstrate or go on strike all around the country. The reason for why they do that, or the demands that they have usually, is to hire more nurses, okay? Because nurses are overworked. They can't get paid leave. They can't get time off. And the nurse-to-patient ratio goes up. Or sorry, the patient-to-nurse ratio goes up year over year. This also obviously makes their output worse in general. If you're a nurse and you're taking care of 4 patients as opposed to now 10 patients, you're going to do a better job taking care of 4 patients, okay? If there is, if the hospital network which is what they usually do for the record. If the hospital network looks at that and goes, "Oh, you guys are striking? Okay, we're going to hire more traveling nurses. We're going to get scabs, okay? And we're going to weather this storm," which is what many hospitals do. Inevitably, you'll be forced back into making concessions, not getting even half of the demands that you've made, and getting them back to work. Hospitals would rather spend a ton more on traveling nurses than actually give the existing full-time nurses and their staff the very reasonable demands that they make. This is just one aspect of the labor force, but it happens everywhere, okay? It happens everywhere. A lot of people are asking for more people to be hired. Why are they asking for more people to be hired while keeping the pay rates the same or maybe a little bit better? It's because they want like less of a workload. This is one of the unnoticed aspects, which is why a lot of leftists will look at productivity and then compare it to wage stagnation. Because in comparison to productivity skyrocketing over the course of the last 30, 40 years, wages have remained completely stagnant. And in the process, when productivity goes up, but wages remain stagnant, profits go up. And when profits go up, there's more cash on hand for companies to engage in what used to be illegal, but is now totally legal and valid. What used to be considered market manipulation, but is now totally invalid, stock buybacks. And if they're not going to do stock buybacks, oftentimes they'll invest in R&D. But that R&D under normal conditions is supposed to make it easier. It's supposed to lighten the burden of the existing labor force. But all of that money that goes into R&D, that goes into automation, will actually be used to reduce the size of the labor force, because if you have better technological improvements in your productive output, you can simply make 3 guys do the work that previously 10 guys used to do. This is how it works. We're watching the big boy speak. Who's the big boy? What's the point of these fake job offers then? Fake job offers simply make it seem as though the company is not in a dire circumstance. Makes it seem like the company is still growing. Makes it seem like there's still, the company's still generating better revenue than projected, and that they need more people to come in. They need more people to come in
about no tax on overtime
and work. It's a way to improve their standing in the market. Oh man, we have like 500 job openings. We need people. We need people to work these jobs. It's crazy. It's a form of market manipulation. Basically, everything is a form of market manipulation. That way you can also tell your existing workforce, see, we're trying to fill these roles. We're desperately trying to fill these roles. I know that you're doing the work of many employees right now, and we're inevitably going to fill these roles so that you can have more time to watch HasanAbi at the top of the hour and have more money in your pockets to spend $6 a month to avoid seeing the top of the hour ad break when you're watching the HasanAbi broadcast. That's what people are thinking about. The New York City nurses strike reveals a fundamental flaw in U.S. healthcare. The best way to prevent future healthcare work stoppages is to fix how we pay for healthcare. Nurses at 8 other city hospitals reached a last-minute deal with their management, and is still perhaps the most high-profile example of tension between hospital executives and their medical staff. Now, I'm having this conversation in the eve of Boeing employees striking. 30,000 Boeing employees are currently striking as we speak. UAW is gearing up for another strike against Stellantis. Stellantis, who they negotiated with only last year, is refusing to make good on their side of the bargain. Let's look at the Boeing strike and cover that. Boeing, in an effort to withstand this strike, has decided to furlough their white-collar workers. By the way, what's good for Boeing workers is good for the public. On the West Coast, 33,000 Boeing workers are in the midst of the largest strike, U.S.'s largest strike. It's not just wages and benefits at stake. It's the question of whether we will continue to have secure workers making goods as delicate and as complex as airplanes, written by friend of the show, Alex Press. Okay. On Friday, 33,000 Boeing workers went on strike after voting down a tentative agreement reached on September 8th between their negotiating committee and the airplane manufacturing giant. The strike by the workers, members of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, most of whom work at the company's gigantic Everett, Washington plant, the largest manufacturing building in the world, is now the largest active work stoppage in the United States. Its first strike at Boeing since 2008. Boeing CEO Robert Kelly Ortberg installed earlier this year after the company suffered yet another publicity nightmare when the cabin panel of a 737 MAX 9 came off mid-flight in January this year, not to mention the highly suspicious deaths of 2 whistleblowers at the company, practically begged the workers not to strike, stating that the walkouts puts Boeing's recovery in jeopardy. We encourage them to negotiate in good faith. They got a new CEO on the line. Okay? Many machinists are hogs, unfortunately. I don't care. Hog or not, they obviously recognize what's good for them and what's fair for them. This is what I always stress people. Unions are not about being a card-carrying member of like the American communist movement. Okay? You join a union not because you're a socialist or a communist. You join a union because there's no other way to bargain for a fair contract. United you bargain, divided you beg. Okay? That's how this works. Let's see what more perfect
How long are you
union
gonna
has
take
to
it
say.
for? As long as it takes. How long it takes, man? As long as it takes. Don't even care. We're here for the long run, man. For a week. 2 months. Why not?
Okay. What the f is Zelensky doing there, bro? This was always looking for more money, huh? That's crazy. This was always looking for more money, okay? No matter where. No matter where in the world. He's like, no, I just loved it. I'm doing it for the love of the game. He does not like working, okay? I can tell. Classic Ukrainian commie, okay?
Need more.
See? Bro, he did the Zelensky tagline. Yo, it's him, bro.
2 months. Why not? Need more money.
That's him. I swear to God, that's him, bro. That's him. It's him, bro.
Need more money.
Strike! 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 32,000 Boeing workers are on strike in the Pacific Northwest. They walked off the job at midnight Friday after 95% of workers voted down a tentative contract agreement between Boeing and IAM, the machinists union. 96% of workers voted to go on strike.
Voted no, rejecting the contract, voting yes for strike. Us as machinists and mechanics deserve a better future for not only us but for our children. And this vote today determines that, the future of Boeing.
Workers rejected a contract that would have raised wages 25% over 4 years. After losing their pensions, years of slipping wages, and rampant safety problems, Boeing workers are demanding better.
We're supposed to be the best in the aerospace industry. They need to be paying their employees accordingly. They're willing to pay all their executives. The upper crust makes all the money in the world, but yet the people who build the planes can't. We're just trying to make a wage to afford to be able to have a house and feed our families.
Yeah, that's the other side of unions that like Republicans and liberals alike refuse to mention, which is that in times of like economic downturn, like the company will go back to the workers and be like, we have to make cuts. Okay. So the union in that instance will also agree to certain cuts in an effort to ensure that the company continues to operate. Okay. And that's what's really funny about this problem, which is that like every company, every executive, every single time will say, we'll go bankrupt if we do. We'll go bankrupt if we do what these unions are asking for. And it's like, dude, why would they want to bankrupt the company, you idiot? Like, why? Why would they? Then they won't make any more money after that. No, they just want a larger percentage of the profits that they are creating for you. There is no value without labor. Okay? Without labor, all you have is just sitting capital right there. That's it. And no matter how much we financialize our economy, there is ultimately no real value. There's no output. There's no production without workers. So when they go back to the table and they're like, dude, what the, like, give us some of this money back that we created for you. These guys go, oh, that'll bankrupt us. No, what they actually mean is, No, I don't want to, because I really like my massive salary that I get by ensuring that I don't do that for you, so that, you know, our shareholders, who we actually care about, who I have a fiduciary responsibility to improve their profit margins, I will continue turning larger and larger sums year over year.
We haven't really had a pay raise in 10 years.
The wage increase isn't enough. Just over the last 7 years, I've lost 23% of my buying power due to inflation. The cost of planes have gone up, but our wages have not. It's stagnated. I make 23% less money. That's unacceptable.
And if you keep letting them take and take and take, when does it end? Soon we'll have nothing left, and we'll just have to accept the thing they can throw in our face.
We've been seeing that they've done for the last 16 years when we've been in this pigeonhole of a contract, what they've done for their upper level and their management.
Yes, fiduciary responsibility means they legally have to do the thing that makes the shareholders the most money, okay? That is what the fiduciary responsibility is.
They've been willing to bend over backwards and give them, you know, $20 and $30 million plus bonuses where they can't even support their employees that build the plane.
The future of Boeing is precarious, as the company struggles with a crisis of its own design, overwhelmed by safety problems and deluged with criticism after nearly 2 decades of financialization.
Well, problems continue to mount for U.S. aerospace company Boeing after another string of international safety incidents.
The NTSB says this photo shows the failed Alaska Airlines door plug still on the Boeing production line, without at least 3 of the 4 bolts to hold it in place.
Our goal is to make sure.
Here's what they did, by the way. They outsourced their production to obviously cheaper companies in parts of their manufacturing, and they did this obviously to keep costs as low as possible to increase profits. Okay. They relied on like internal manufacturing less and less. They also dropped the standards on their own personal manufacturing, but they literally cut corners every step of the way. And with the increase of additional money that they got, they went and they did stock buybacks. Is Murat out there protesting? Dog, this is in Washington. What are you talking about? This is the manufacturing facility in an entirely separate division at Boeing. Okay, he is not a machinist, nor a part of Boeing that is unionized.
That Boeing makes the necessary changes and has the right tools in place to sustain those changes.
I really think that when you talk to people on the floor, we want to do a better job. We want the environment that helps us make that safe, quality work, and we expect Boeing to provide it.
Are you worried about company's financial state?
Nope, because they did this themselves, not us.
Workers are looking for input into production, with bonuses for delivering the safe planes that Boeing has regularly sabotaged.
We're going to be here for a long time. The deal's going to take a little while. It's definitely not going to happen overnight, and most of us are definitely prepared to be here a long time.
Anyway, law tip: corporations possess a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to ensure said shareholders make the most money possible. If corporate boards don't do what is best for the profit of the shareholders can literally sue them for a buttload of money. Can I kiss you on the cheek in TwitchCon just once, please? No, please don't do that. Not exactly correct. They span off part of the company, Spirit Aerosystems, into a separate company, hoping it would have extra customers. But still, 70% of his revenue is from Boeing. With 2 companies instead of 1, there are communication and quality issues. I mean, they bought Spirit Aerosystems, which was a separate company, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'm saying about outsourcing is true. Trump has taken the stage. Our big boy is taking the stage. Does anyone have the link